Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, as you can see, I'm going to be talking about how I stopped breastfeeding my son, who is 2. So I wanted to make this video while it was still clear in my mind and I could remember everything that I did and all my tips and advice. So I hope this video is going to be helpful to you if you're thinking about stopping breastfeeding your child soon, especially if they're a toddler. Because that's what this video is specifically about, because my son is 2, so he's a toddler when I stopped breastfeeding him. And I hope this gives you some kind of hope if you think your child is never going to stop breastfeeding. I promise you they can and they will stop breastfeeding at some point. And they can be done without a load of fuss and a load of hassle as well. So yeah, let's get straight into it. If you don't know who I am, then my name is Abigail, and like I said, I have a son called Samuel who is 2. He's now 2 and about 3 months. And he was exclusively breastfed for the first 6 months of his life. He was breastfed throughout the night and to sleep until he was 1. And then has been breastfed before nighttime and before naps until he was just recently 2 and a bit. So I'm going to tell you this, I'm going to give you my story time while all the information is still fresh in my brain, because he just stopped breastfeeding only a few weeks ago. I should also say that he was in his own cot and his own room from 7 months of age, so he didn't co-sleep with us. He slept in a little kind of crib by the side of our bed, one of these next to me cribs, so he was right near us until he was 7 months, and then after 7 months he went into his big cot in his own room. So just to give you kind of a little bit of context of our sleeping arrangements as well. I'll start off talking about how I stopped breastfeeding him at night, because this was a huge milestone for us, because as you know, if you're breastfeeding a child throughout the night every few hours, then that is really, really tiring. I breastfed Samuel every few hours throughout the night until he was 1, which I know is quite late, and it was definitely time for us to stop. And so how I stopped breastfeeding him through the night was, it kind of happened at the same time as I sleep trained Samuel. So I'm going to link some videos down below and up here. You can go and check out my full video of how I sleep trained my son, which essentially means that I got him to go to sleep without needing to be breastfed. And because he was going to sleep without needing to be breastfed, and I wasn't giving him breast throughout the night, then he ended up sleeping throughout the night and not needing me. And he wasn't needing fed anyway, because he was 1 and he was only comfort feeding. He wasn't really getting any milk really, he was just comfort feeding to go back to sleep. So like I said, I made a couple of videos about it back when I did it, and I'll link them here so you can go and see exactly how I stopped breastfeeding him to sleep, and then how he ended up sleeping through the night, and obviously not breastfeeding during the night then, which was a massive step. And it was the one thing that I really wanted to get done. And I will say this, once breastfeeding stops working or stops being suitable for either yourself or your child, then it's time to stop. So I decided to stop when he was 1, because until then I was fine, I was quite happy, but then it was time to stop because I was just getting too much with all the comfort feeding throughout the night. So like I said, link those videos here, but basically I stopped feeding him to sleep when he was 1, but then it's kind of backtracked a bit. Once he was sleeping through the night really well, and I was still breastfeeding him before naps and before going to sleep at night, he was then being breastfed to sleep again. So I almost regressed slightly, but I didn't really mind. So because he was fully sleep trained and he slept through the night, he was quite happy during the night. And then I kind of slipped back into my old habit, I guess, of breastfeeding him to sleep, which actually worked out fine for the next year. So from when he was 1 to when he was 2, I breastfed him to sleep, again, once he was fully sleep trained. And yeah, I didn't really mind, because I liked sleeping, I liked breastfeeding him to sleep, and he obviously liked it and he enjoyed it, and it wasn't a problem for us. So, and yeah, he didn't wake up during the night after he was sleep trained, so I didn't mind. So we kind of went slightly back, but at the same time I didn't mind breastfeeding him to sleep. So that's what we did from when he was 1 until he was 2 and a bit. And I kind of thought that you would never want to stop breastfeeding. I didn't really mind it, but I thought I need to stop at some point. By this time we were pregnant, so we are due to have a baby in February 2021. And so I knew that I need to stop breastfeeding Samuel before the new baby comes along, because that will just cause issues and I'm just not up for kind of doing both at the same time. So I kind of just thought, I'm going to have to stop breastfeeding at some point. But during the start of my pregnancy, he wasn't seeming to be, I was feeling very sick anyway, so I wasn't going to wean him off breastfeeding at that point. And I kind of just left it, and then my boobs really started to hurt because of pregnancy. like they really started to hurt. And then about, how many months into pregnancy? Like a good few months into pregnancy, my milk just went completely. Like I have no more milk at all. And so he was literally just breastfeeding, like for the comfort. There was no milk at all. And I think that was helpful in the sense that he wasn't really getting much apart from the comfort. So I think that was helpful in being able to stop breastfeeding. So basically I decided to stop breastfeeding at this point completely with Samuel because it was really painful for me and I wasn't feeling like it was being beneficial anymore to both of us. So what I did was I just thought, I'm just going to not breastfeed him anymore. And he was only breastfeeding a short amount of time. So that's another thing I'll say. It's better obviously to reduce the amount of time you're breastfeeding slowly. That kind of happens naturally over time, I found, was that he was just taking less and less breast milk. So it kind of happened really naturally for us. And so when it was time to kind of just completely stop breastfeeding, he was not really feeding for very long anyway, maybe just a few minutes. And so when I just stopped, it wasn't that hard, like he was okay. So what I did when I stopped was I replaced my comfort with other things that would be comforting to him within his room, bearing in mind he's 2. So I replaced it when he was 1. I introduced a comforter, his little giraffe comforter. I introduced that, so that was already being a comfort to him from when he was waking up at night. We also have a little star projector, which he absolutely loves to watch as he goes to sleep. So I'd highly recommend that. I'll link it below, the one that we have. He loves to watch the stars go around at night. And then just as I was stopping breastfeeding, basically the day that I was like, no more breastfeeding, I decided instead of the breastfeeding, I'm going to hug him, like I'm going to cuddle him like I normally do, and I'm going to sing songs to him and see how that goes. I was just like trial and error, see how that goes. And so I was singing songs to him and I had the stars on and he has his comforter and he went to sleep by me singing to him, which to me was absolutely incredible. He did ask to breastfeed once the first night, once the second night, and that was it. He didn't make a fuss. Once I said no, we're not having any more, he was like, okay, sing more songs kind of thing. So we sang Twinkle Twinkle and we did spend a bit of time singing, especially the first few nights, about 15-20 minutes. But like that's nothing, like for the hassle that I thought it was going to be to get him to stop breastfeeding, that was literally like nothing. So it was absolutely amazing. This did coincide with us putting him into his big boy bed, so we took the side of our cot off and it turns it into like a toddler bed that he can get out of. I don't know if that maybe helped slightly because he felt more independent and he felt like a proper big boy. So that might have helped, I'm not sure. It wasn't planned to do it at the same time again, but at the same time, as I decided to stop breastfeeding, he was climbing out of his cot, so I was like, right, it's time to take the side down. And so he was in his big boy bed and he was sleeping by himself and not breastfeeding to sleep anymore. And that was a few weeks ago and he's not breastfed once since then. He's not asked once since then to breastfeed. It was very low fuss, low hassle. The only bit of hassle, I guess you might say, is that I do have to sing him to sleep, or I have to sing to him and leave him in his bed, and then once or twice he might get out and I'll just take him back to bed. But that's like the extent of the hassle of him and me putting him to sleep without breastfeeding. So it's absolutely amazing. I'm just going to share a couple of my quick tips that I would have for you if you are thinking about stopping breastfeeding soon, especially if you've got a toddler. My first tip is wait until you're ready to stop, which means don't let society pressure you, don't let your family pressure you, don't let your friends pressure you. And people will say to you, oh, you're still breastfeeding, like why are you still breastfeeding? If it's working for you and your child, keep going as much as you want, basically. But once it stops working for either yourself, you get too tired, or it becomes too much hassle, or maybe you have another baby like me, or once your child doesn't want to anymore, obviously, then it's time for you to stop, then that's fine. But I would say that if you can, wait until you're ready and just don't be pressured by anyone else, because people will pressure you, because it's not normal to breastfeed your child for an extended period of time, and yet it's really beneficial to the child if you can do it. So yeah, just don't let anyone else pressure you. Just be zen and be ready to know when you're ready to stop, rather than when everyone else tells you you're ready to stop. And the second thing is to know when your baby is getting nutritional benefit, like lots of nutritional benefit from your milk, or whether they're just comfort feeding, in which they'll still get nutrition from that, I guess, but you can stop much more easily if they're just feeding for comfort rather than feeding for nutrition. And that'll be like kind of around 1 or less than 1 is when, in my opinion, you'll start to notice they're just comfort feeding, and that's when you can kind of to think about stopping. And my tips would be to really early introduce in different things that are going to comfort your child that's not yourself or your breast milk. It is, for example, the things that I said, for example, comforter toy is really, really good one. My son now loves his little comforter giraffe, and it's also a really good signal that it's time to go to bed as well. The little star thing that I said, really, really like that, is really great. You can get all different kinds of night lights. And my son did actually show that he was a bit scared at night time without the light on. So a night light is something that I highly recommend. And then, like I said, just singing songs, making sure that they're still getting comfort from yourself before bed without including breastfeeding. So that's what I think really, really clicked. The key, but it was really the key for us, and it really clicked, was that I was cuddling him before bed. So he was still getting cuddles with mummy and daddy if he was home, and I was singing to him, so he was still getting that close comfort without the breastfeeding. So that's the thing that really worked for us, and that I think really was really beneficial. So I hope these tips and this like little story time that I did for you today was helpful to you. If you're thinking about stopping breastfeeding your child. Yeah, leave me any questions you have down below and I'll answer them, and I'll see you very soon in my next one. Bye guys.